Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 11 of the Leven Podcast. This is very weird. I know it's been such a long time since the last podcast. Of course, you know, I've basically kind of kept everyone updated on my Twitter. So if you don't follow me on Twitter, make sure to follow me to find out more information about the podcast. But obviously, I started school again in September, start of September, and obviously it's been pretty hard in my final year of school. So just been struggling to find the right time. But obviously, I'm back now. Gonna be pushing out some more frequent podcasts for you guys. Of course, FNCS has come to a close. We're waiting for the next thing to happen. And today we have the one and only BELAEU with me. Hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. You know, BELAEU has been incredibly successful. His journey throughout the scene is one that you know I admire highly. Right. In terms of just like someone to watch and learn from, I think he is probably one of my favorite people to do so, right? Because he's not the stereotypical insanely cracked young 14-year-old who's just better than everyone mechanically, but you know he's really improved this game from figuring out how the game works strategically and building up from there. So if you wanna learn, be sure to check him out. And I hope you guys enjoy the podcast. Let me know who you guys want to see me talk to in the description below. Tweet at me who you want to see me talk to. Tweet at the person who you want to see me talk to. Glad to be back. I love you guys. Thanks for the support, and I'll see you on the next episode. Hey everybody, welcome. We are joined today by the wonderful BELAEU, Best Lassie EU. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing fine. A little bit ill, but still grinding, still happy, still going on.
Man. Yeah, of course. We'll probably get into it later, but your illness hasn't affected your performance too much, I wouldn't say. So
yeah, it hasn't.
Can't be that bad. Just to start off, wanted to get into the origin of your name. So
yeah.
So obviously you go by BELAEU, right?
Yep.
Back in the day, I remember mainly you would like it was more just Best Lassie. Or like Best Lassie EU. Your first name's Lassie, right?
Yep, that is correct.
So I take it you just were like, I'm just the best Lassie. I'm just the best. Or is there something more to that?
I mean, it kind of is as simple as that, but like it comes from League. Like back in season 3, there's a meme going on like from Korea, I think. People in Korea started naming themselves like Best Aurelia Korea or like Best Jax Korea, Korea and stuff like that. And it carried on to like EU West, and I spotted it. And at the time, I had no good nickname, so I wanted a new nickname, and I liked the idea of Best X EU.
Yeah.
But there was nothing I was like best at, I would say. Even though I was like good, like down 1, I was not like best at any champions. I was like, okay, I'm the best Lassie EU because like there are no good Finnish players, so no one else can be named Lassie. So I was like, okay, let's go.
Yeah,
let's go, Best Lassie EU. And it has carried on after. Like I think it's a fun name, and at the same time, it is correct, I would say, and I want it to be correct.
Definitely the Best Lassie in Fortnite. So
yeah, definitely.
So obviously, before I feel like you were like it was the whole thing. So how come you kind of shortened it to Bella?
I thought if I went professional, it would be a too long name.
Yeah. And
you couldn't fit into the in-game name, you know, like Helsinki Reds Best Lassie EU wouldn't fit.
Yeah,
it was too long.
Yeah.
That was I would say the main reason. But to be honest, I thought people would know how to pronounce BELAEU better. I mean, I thought this name would be like good, BELAEU, but people actually can pronounce it without knowing how to, so it's kind of, I don't know if I like the name.
Fair enough. I like the name. I think it's a nice name. Pretty clear.
Yeah.
So obviously gonna get into your success as a trio. I referred to you recently after the events of FNCS as the most consistent trio of that event, which statistically you guys had the highest average placement. Talk about how you felt about your performance within trios with your trio.
So it's kind of, I would say, complex because we didn't win, but I still like feel good. It doesn't feel as good as it could feel. Like I feel like we could have won the whole thing like quite easily, but it wasn't today. We made mistakes, but like it feels good. we achieved more than I would expect us to achieve. Like when we picked the high with me and Gaxi in the beginning, I did not expect us to do this well. But I mean, it just feels awesome. Like the most awesome thing is like going back into my own like recordings and checking how we played 2 months back, like my comms, like my improvement. It's the most awesome thing is to see the improvement in yourself. Like I feel like the confidence from these results is insane, and it shows in my like improvement. I guess it feels good.
Yeah, I think pardon me, sorry. I think I'm really big on like ranking people and ranking teams, and you know, identifying players and giving teams, you know, sort of ratings, right? And when in terms of winning events, right? So like an event like FNCS, winning an event, I like to say, well, there's certain, you know, contending teams that, you know, are very good, the top tier teams who are contending and can possibly win. And then there's obviously, you know, teams that I think are championship quality teams, the teams that are able to actually win, right? And I think, weirdly enough, of course, like you said, you know, maybe you didn't expect as much during the whole process as you actually got. But after the event, I think it was very easy to say that you guys are a championship caliber team. And in EU, I don't think there was many others, right? I think obviously you have MMB that you'd probably call a championship team. You'd probably call the team that actually won with Shinken, Stompy, and Aqua.
Yeah.
I think people would have probably said one of the French trios, you know, with like Axenikov, like the top teams that you would expect to win a tournament, and I think I ranked you guys as one of those teams. And obviously, you didn't get the result you wanted, which was a win, but like I said earlier, you had the highest average placement, the most consistent team game to game. Talk about for each game, you know, what do you remember from the games? You know, what didn't go your way, and what you think you could have done to maybe push to that first place spot?
I don't remember the exact details of each game, but the first game sticked out because we had no mobility and the zone was bad. Northwest zone and we landed lucky. So I expect us to get like maybe max 5 points, 6 points from that game. But Gaxis clutched it up big time. It was I did not expect that. It was fun. And the other games, I don't know, like the other games, just so many small things. Like there was not the whole 6 games in the actual finals. I don't think we made any big mistakes. Like honestly, like it doesn't feel like that. It was just small things, and I guess they added up. Like we had 2 top 3 placements. In the second game, we got top 3. It was such a small thing that could have gone as top 2. It maybe would have made a difference. But I don't know. Like it just goes to show that you have to be focused on the like actual game for the whole time of the actual tournament. Like 6 games, you have to be at your like peak focus to win, I guess. And I guess we didn't do that. We just had too many small mistakes, and they added up. I don't know. That's what I would say. Like to say about it.
Do you think it's an issue though? Obviously, where you have a team be so consistent, you know, like you guys were, and obviously still not be in contention to be in that first place spot.
Yeah, I do think it's an issue. Like definitely would say so. Even in like World Cup solos, we can talk about that later. But if the point form was the same as ESL, I would have been higher. And the same with this trio stuff. Like, you most likely know that we were 4th, and the 3rd place had the same points as we did, but they won on tiebreakers. But the issue was that we played the exact same 6 games, and on those 6 games we had better average elims and better average placement. So in my brain, it doesn't really compute that well that you can play the exact same games and be better on both elims and placement and still be a worse team. You need to like in trios, and especially in the future squads, you need to reward for each placement, because the difference was with our team that I mentioned 2 games top 3. We missed out on top 2 placement points. But if the point form was the case where you would get placement points from each different like placement, like top 4 and top 3, you get placements for both. then we would have been past the third place team. And I think in trios, in like stacked lobbies and in squads, like it is really really tough to get like even top 4. It is really tough. It is like you cannot deny that it's tough to get top 4 in those stacked lobbies. So I would hope that each placement matters. Like every placement matters.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. Obviously, we'll discuss squads a bit later and discuss, what Epic need to do to make squads a viable game mode. But of course, you're obviously someone who's, you've come a long way throughout the scene. You weren't obviously always at the top of the scene, but obviously you've put yourself in a position where you are now part of, that upper echelon of players. You are, a contending championship caliber team.
Yeah.
Do you want to just talk about, the steps you took to kind of get here? Because obviously prior to World Cup, you weren't, I wouldn't say you were an elite, one of the, you weren't someone who people would have predicted to have qualified for World Cup and after qualifying to even do well in the World Cup.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about, your day-to-day routine and training and any advice that you'd give to people coming up, like yourself, and how they could handle that?
So I would say it's the main part is like training consistently. I feel like that's the core of my improvement, like how it has come to this point. Like I've never like taken long breaks or like given up or anything like that. I just kept going, kept training. But like this year, 2019 has been the big year of improvement, even like from January. In 2018, I don't feel like I improved almost at all. At that point, I had not committed to like being a pro, I guess. So in 2019, it was more like I started looking at the game more and more like systematically, like analyzing it more and more and trying to figure out a way how to play the game style I want to play. And how I began was, to be honest, I just like looked at the top performance at the time. I think it was like Airmax and Nikov in duos, and looked at how they play. They did some like mid-ground G stuff. And to be honest, after that, I've kind of like copied that to try to make it more and more perfect, like get it more and more clean and just do it my way. Like it's not a copy of the playstyle, but it's like my way of the mid-ground safe playstyle.
Yeah, like it's it's like your adaptation of that kind of style of play. And it's interesting because actually before we started talking and even before we spoke to discuss a podcast, I saw the way you played and I compared it to that of like the French style of play, right? Like people have always said in the scene like, how the French are successful, they're not even that good. These guys aren't mechanically that good. But like looking back at that style of play since day one, any event that we've had, that style of play has always been the successful style of play. The French have always been at the top of the EU scene. So obviously, you've obviously changed that style to match, who you are as a player more, and you've been so successful in that. So with that being said, though, like, what kind of advice would you give to players, to be able to grow and take their game to the next level?
I would almost recommend to ignore mechanical side of the game until you have the like fundamentals clear in terms of rotating and like playing low ground, high ground, mid ground, figuring out that stuff, because those things matter in the like qualifiers we have. Like being able to like rack up those placement points, it's the most important thing. After you have that figured out, you can maybe like bring in the mechanical stuff. But before that, try to figure out the fundamentals of rotating and getting placements and stuff like that. Like basic consistency-oriented stuff, like how to get to that end game.
Have you ever had a coach or been interested in getting a coach for the future?
No, with World Cup solos, I had Destiny Jesus like give me some helping, I guess. Like he helped me a bit, but after and before that, I've had almost nothing to do with coaches or coaching. I've coached myself, but I mean, that's about it.
Is that something you'd look into to gain for the future with squads coming up, or what?
Yeah, it would, but I feel like it feels like kind of ego to say, but I feel like I have the game so well figured out that it is difficult to find a coach that could help me, because I also have like my studies, my psychology studies. So I would say I also have the mental side kind of clear. Like I don't especially need like mental coaching. I would benefit more from my in-game coaching, but it just feels like it's difficult to find a coach that is like actually has tons of expertise.
So I'd say you have the mental side of things figured out, and obviously finding a coaching is still kind of like a weird niche right now in Fortnite. So there's not a lot of high level coaches, I'd say.
Yep.
That I think the upper echelon of players like yourself would need. Like I think there's a lot of coaches that can provide help for elite teams and any kind of team lower than that, but I think once you reach like the kind of like top 10 teams in EU, I think it's hard to find a coach that can give those teams the knowledge required to excel their game.
Yeah, that's what I also feel like. That's how I feel like at the moment. I mean, Fortnite is still young, like it's very young esport. And I hope it's not gonna die soon. But like, at this point, I don't think any game has had good coaches at this stage. Like I don't think so.
Yeah, that is true. Obviously, in the next couple of years, we never know how things can change.
Yeah.
So, obviously, Epic announced squads at the end of FNCS during their live stream.
Yeah.
Of course, typical of Epic to announce something like that and then not provide squad arena for us, but whatever. So obviously, since they've announced squads, there's kind of been like the roster shuffles everywhere. Players and teams mixing and matching, and it's crazy because my biggest thing is that a lot of people have like announced certain things, and it's like you don't even know if it's gonna work, right? You've not even got a chance to play squad scrims against each other, but
I know. Yeah.
Initially, obviously, you and Tohaj decided, that you wouldn't be playing with Caxi anymore. Do you want to talk more about that decision, where that kind of came from? Because I know you said, I think it was you that said, irrespective of the result of FNCS, that was something that was always a conversation.
And it would happen no matter if we won the FNCS finals. It was like I don't want to like contradict myself, but it's not about the results mainly. Of course, that matters. Like the one big reason why we did the change was to see if we can get better results with that like new roster. But I would kind of go to say that the big reason kind of was that I played 5 months with Caxi, and during those 5 months, I've kind of been like, I could say, exclusive with Caxi. Like I've not, I don't know what's happening outside of me and Caxi. I don't know how. I haven't tried playing with other people, like almost at all. In duos, I played with no one else, and I played with the same guy for 5 months, and I have almost no experience of how is it on the like outside.
Yeah.
So I would say that plays a big part in it. Maybe looking outside the box and seeing if you can find more improvement that way, like both ways, me and Caxi,
Yeah, 100%.
If you can find new ideas, new players, like figure out that we did all the time we did something wrong, for example. If you can find something like that out, would be awesome.
Yeah.
So I would say it kind of plays around that. Like I wouldn't say it's not about like we weren't bad as a trio, we weren't bad as a duo. Caxi isn't bad. Like no one is like bad in this equation, but it's like kind of want to find out if it could go better,
100%. I think that's fair. You deserve that right. After playing for so long with each other, most teams and players don't even last that long with each other. So for you guys to start from where you were and then to make it to the top, it's obviously a great story. And Caxi, a talented player, he will be fine.
He should be fine. Yeah.
So obviously, since then though, you guys have announced that you're going to be playing with Savage. The fourth is yet to be announced. Talk about how that came to be. How did you and Savage decide you're going to play with each other?
Just casually dropping DMs and asking if he wants to play with our style. Like the first question I asked was if he wants to play our style, you know, like, because I feel like many people can play our style, but most people don't want to play it because it's kind of like boring, semi-passive, and it feels like you might be reliant on RNG, but actually it's the opposite of that, I would say. So just going and chatting with Savage, like, what does he think about our style and how does it feel? Like, how does it feel about it and stuff like that. Just talking it out, like, is he confident in the style? Would he like to do it? And what are his strengths? And how can he help us? How can we help him? You know, stuff like that.
Well,
just going, I guess, in depth.
That's good. I think that's something I want to highlight actually, because a lot of players, I feel like they team up with people. You know, they hear and they say, "Oh, you know, that guy's cracked. I know him. He's really talented. You know, let's try play with each other." And there's never that discussion, or maybe there's not enough of the discussion of, "Hey, this is our play style. This is how our system works. Are you willing to buy into that system and commit to that system? You know, how can we help you? How can you help us?" Right? There's not enough of that conversation. And if you see like, I always, like, I'm, you know, becoming the guy that likes to compare everything to sports, right? And it's like, in sports, that's the thing, right? Like, if you have a professional, you know, football player going to join, like, Man City, right? You know, do you pay attention to football at all?
No, I have, like,
okay. But like, if you have a professional football player going to join a team, like, a conversation will be had with the coach of that team and the manager of that team. Like, this is our system. This is how we play. Is that what you want to be involved in, right? So I think it's really good that obviously you guys had that, and I know you obviously, you know, the fourth is yet to be announced, and we obviously spoke about that a bit, but it'll be interesting to see who else you pick up. I think regardless. With that core of you, Savage, and Tohaj, right? I think, you know, success is obviously, you know, I think it's inevitable to a degree. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Like, I think with squads coming, it's interesting to see how squads even are in the first place, right?
Yeah, it might be a disaster, kind of. Like,
What do you think needs to be kind of changed and adjusted for squads to be successful?
So because I don't know how things will be, so it's kind of hard to speculate. But I feel like
based off of trios, want to see based off of trios.
I would say the main issue, even for like spectators, will be the server performance. Like, I don't think the servers can handle squads. Like, I do not think so. Even the trio finals were kind of like it, like, almost as bad as like World Cup finals, and those were laggy as hell. Like, those were actually laggy. So I feel like squads will be even more difficult for the servers to handle, and I'm really afraid of that. It will be awful to play. It won't be like, at this stage of the game and esports, I don't think we should have issue with lag. Like, it ruins the competitive like feeling about it. I don't know. Like that, I would say that's the main issue, and it kind of plays around the second issue I'm gonna have, the current map size. I do not think the current map fits squads, like 25 teams of 4 people. I don't think the current map fits it at all.
In terms of, you think it's too big or too small?
I would say too small, kind of. And it's difficult because you can look at it like different size, but I feel like it's too small. Like, there's not enough loot for 25 teams. Yeah. So there would be more fighting, but it would be fine if Epic wanted to decrease the player amount of each game from 100 to like 80, let's say.
Yeah,
that would help a lot.
Back in the day when we did squads, we never had 4 lobbies. We used to play squads with like 60 people in, right?
Exactly, and that's like why I'm kind of afraid of it. Like, the old school squads, like division, push by a division, like 48 players per lobby. Like, that's half of the like player amount we have now in the future.
And yet it was still laggy.
yeah.
So
I'm afraid of how the servers are gonna handle it and how the map suits the squad. Like, I don't think it's gonna go well, but I hope Epic would address these issues and like even communicate. Like, even give us their thoughts about squads, what's gonna happen, what's gonna change.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see in the next coming days. Obviously, you know, the fact that we haven't got Squad Arena yet obviously shows that it's most likely going to be coming with Season 8. And hopefully with season 8 comes like the right changes to ensure that like things are done right. Because I was saying on Twitter in a conversation with someone, I was saying like, if you kind of look at the timeline of Epic and who's worked at Epic and everything that's happened at Epic, everything that has happened up to World Cup, like, okay, so when Nate Nancer got hired, right, that shows that there was somebody before him making decisions, and that person is no longer making decisions, right? Yeah. Which means that now, certain, like Nate Nancer and his teams his team is in charge of making certain decisions. Obviously, we know there's conflicts between different teams in Epic, whatever. But just in terms of focusing on the comp team, like certain things like World Cup, right? They would have been planned out before he arrived, right? So we can't even say, we can't say, oh, Nate Nancer is responsible for World Cup, Like, in my opinion, FNCS was, like, the first thing that he would have been, like, responsible for and the main, like, creator behind, etc. So, obviously, I'd like to say FNCS was a success. And hopefully he and the Fortnite team continue to learn from it and move forward with that. But so I'm excited to see if because even FNCS, even before FNCS, there was a major improvement. Like, they told us a couple of weeks before FNCS, hey, there's going to be tournaments on this day and this day. We're going to do weekly cups this day and this day, and it's going to run like that for about 5-6 weeks. Like, that's the first time Epic have ever done that, right? Like, just even giving us a plan to work around.
Yeah,
so like,
it's good.
Hopefully, they continue to make improvements like that. I want to get into. Obviously, you are on Helsinki Reds. How long have you been with them, actually?
So, I signed with them, or announced, like, the first day of December last year. I would say, is that 10 months now? I would say that's 10 months.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something like that. So, yeah, 10 months with Helsinki Reds now. I've been happy with them.
Yeah, that's insane. Obviously, the player that you were when they picked you up versus what you are now, it's been a great investment. Like, that's a great investment on their behalf.
They are also happy. At least I hope so.
I'm sure they would be. I'd be. To be fair. So obviously, you're all very supportive. You're the only player on the roster. Is that like something that's like always been known to you, that you'd always be the only player, or is that just the way things have been?
Nah, like the things things have changed since I got signed, but I expected there to be like 4 Finnish players, like a squad of Finnish players. Yeah. That's what I kind of expected to happen, but of course I'm not the one making decisions. But it's just it feels like Epic Games has not invested in esports enough for Helsinki to make that decision, and there are not enough top star Finnish players, like, to be honest. That's kind of rough to say to, like, my Finnish bros, because,
What do you have to say for the Finnish? You obviously represent Finland. Like, I hear Finland for now, I think of you, and do you ever see yourself doing anything to help, the Finnish guys out? Like, I don't know if there's much you can do, but, like, is that something you'd be interested in, helping build up that scene?
That's a complex issue. Like, yeah, of course I want to, like, see more Finnish good players, but at the same time, I do not want to invest a lot of my time doing that, because it's, in the end, like, it's about me. I'm playing for myself.
100%.
So I would love to see more Finnish players. Like, to be honest, I would have never guessed for myself to be in this position like 1 year back, to be the like top Finnish player. I never expected this to happen. So
it's crazy to say. Or hopefully it just turns into a thing where, like, Finnish players, aspiring Finnish players, kind of look to you and, like, try and model themselves after you, right?
I mean, like, I would hope for that to happen. I legit would hope for that to happen. Would be nice.
Within your squad though, who's calling the shots mainly? Who's the IGL?
Me. In 3 years, it was like, I would say 95% me doing the calls.
Yeah.
I would assume it will be around the same in squad, but I feel like.
Hello.
I just built in the game because I watched his words. I feel like he can help me, I guess, in some things. So he will call sometimes.
Wait, can you repeat that again? Sorry, it cut out. Discord's very buggy. I don't know what's going on.
When did it cut out? Like, which part? Before Savage or like?
Yeah, just before Savage. after you said with what happened in trios, what's it going to be like in squads?
Yeah. So in squads, it will be most likely pretty much the same as in trios. So I will make most of the calls, but with Savage, I'm pretty sure he will call some of the things in endgame, especially in endgame.
Yeah.
I would assume I will do most of the mid-game calling and early-game calling, but in endgame, Savage might help me out in something. So it might be like 80% me calling and 20% Savage. But we will have to see in like practice how it actually goes. But that's how I feel like it will be at this moment.
That's always good. Just the last couple of things, before we get wrapped up. Did you see the tweet I made about team names?
Yeah, I did. Actually, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, if at this point, right, you had to kind of give your team a name, just off the top of your head, what would you give what would you want to name your team?
Oh God,
that's a really hard question.
Yeah, it is.
It's fine.
I would like to make a joke of like old people and a young guy, because we have Savage as youngest guy, like very young, and then we have me and Tohai like 20+-year-olds, like some kind of like retirement home plan. I don't know, something like that.
Old man club or some shit like.
Yeah, something like that would be nice.
Hey, the old guys are doing pretty well right now. You guys are doing very well for yourself. I'm excited to see, obviously, how you perform. I'm happy that we were able to get you on here to talk. I know we discussed it quite a while ago. So it's good to have you here. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do in squad. Looking forward to seeing who your fourth is. I think everyone's looking forward to that.
Yeah.
You've obviously been streaming a lot more recently. Do you want to just plug your stream, talk about your stream?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Like I'm thinking of doing the transition from like mostly Finnish to English only streams. So
yeah, you should definitely.
I guess you should like tune to my stream and check it out.
Yeah,
Twitch.tv/BELAEU. Like,
link will be in the description.
I'll be there.
Yeah. But yeah, I think English streams would definitely be the way to grow.
Yeah. I will look at that. Look into that. I would have done it a long time ago, but it's difficult when like 90% of your viewers are Finnish. It's difficult to do that transition, but I will do it at some point.
All right, man. Nice to have you. Thank you for joining me. Hope everyone enjoyed the podcast. We'll see you guys later.
See ya.